Something Ajahn Sucitto said to Ajahn Chah one time. He said, well, as far as he could see it, Dhamma was all about letting go, and the Vinaya was all about holding on. And how did you manage to get the two to fit? Ajahn Chah said, yeah, that's right. When you know how they fit together, then you know how to practice. How do you, the sense of maintaining particular forms, conventions, continuity, standards, and routines, and with a sense of letting go and deepening letting go. And maybe even to say that the two need each other, not just they can fit, but actually necessary. You can't really practice Vinaya properly unless you know how to let go. You can't really practice Dhamma properly unless you know how to hold on. So, see with, the aim of Vinaya, when the Buddha established the various training rules, he said it's for the elimination of the asava. So it's always you're really using these, and there's a whole sense of being able to change standards in accordance with what's suitable or proper, and also recognition that there's different ways people develop. There's different things you want to actually emphasize in the training, or just in the all-round training the mind. First of all, you can't really get it that refined at first. It just makes you too tight. So you just start off with something kind of fairly just harmless and moral, and gradually you feel you want to take up the slack to look more closely at how the mind blurs or its impulsiveness. So you want to be more steady, more refined in that. You're more careful and conscientious about how you impact other people. Well-meaning, but sometimes even a well-meaning ebullience may not be what really fits other people's minds. You always get a sense of a bit of space, you might say, restraint, where you're just checking out, is this the right time, the right place, the right mood, how's she, how's he, and you get that. And also what's coming up in your mind when you see somebody or you do something, whether you're getting pushy or expecting something or projecting one's own meanings onto other people, what you want other people to be. I want you to be strong, so as I have something to lean on. I want you to be soft, so I have something to look after me. I want you to be this way or that way. You start to see some of this stuff happening, and then you want to kind of sharpen it to something that's actually, the rules are really only a scaffolding around a whole sense of, Vinaya means the breaking up of the of old karma. And so you want to hold quite carefully in terms of how one interacts, just so you get a sense of not following the old karma carelessly. The aim of it is letting go, being able to let go of one's own projections. This powerful need to have things solid, secure, guaranteed, okay, favourable, not going to bother me, can feel good, and so on. Which I'm sure we can all resonate with that. That's the way I'd like it to be. as far as I could make out, having lived on the planet 57 years, life hurts. There's not continual, by any means, continual agony or strife, but there is this kind of pebble in the sandal. Every now and then, as you step, you can feel this little something, there's a sense of missing the good, missing the happy times, missing people, or concern or worry, or confusion or misunderstanding. And then there's all the uncertainties of the future. When it gets kind of nice, you don't want it to change anything else. And why we practice, or what you're doing in meditation, is you're really emphasizing, trying to get to the point where your ability to supervise and be aware itself becomes a kind of something that's not just an intellectual exercise, but a felt, spacious, abiding place. We tend to get very much pulled into the level of being affected, and what we're going to do, the affective, impulsive area. When something powerful occurs, almost, I don't know, but a lot of the time the immediate response of what are we going to do about it? Affect, impulse, and that gets all the attention. And maybe with time, as you begin to practice, you realise, well, the first thing to do is not do, to notice the effect, see what it brings up. This is. So you've got that basis, and how much of what we're affected by, of messages, appointments, diaries, things of the future, other people, how much of it is actually seen through the lens of our own karma, our own old karma, our own fears or wishes or uncertainties. One of the most powerful, fundamental right resolve is sankappa. There's three bases to avoid the abuse, to avoid insensitivity, and to avoid sensuality, or at least the sense of being bonded to the sense realm. And out of these which is always actually stated in the negative, like to avoid violence, ahimsa, to avoid, we might say, the abuse, to avoid callousness, indifference, harshness, insensitivity, and to be watchful over the sense doors. And from these people glean principles of loving kindness and compassion and renunciation, which is a reasonable enough kind of way of deduction. But it's really just avoiding or stepping back from what pulls, the impulse, the doing impulse. So you don't really do renunciation as some kind of principle. You try doing renunciation, you tend to adopt a view, nothing is pleasing to me, everything should be pushed away. You don't do that. These aren't doings. You just stop doing the other. And that's actually quite a lot of the Buddha's teaching is in that kind of manner, like to not do this, to avoid doing that, to not state this, to non-permanence, non-self. It's a rubbing out of particular places where the mind clings and holds, but it doesn't assert the opposite. It's not an assertion. It's not creating of something else that's solid that you've got to do or have or be. I've got to be a non-self. I've got to be egoless. It's just saying when you feel that sense of hardening up, stiffening up, solidifying around some kind of personal viewpoint, or just obvious things like your body making this something that you really take a stand on, or your territory or whatever. Just feel that kind of taking a standpoint. See if you can attend to that. This is what Vinaya does. It tends to give us all kinds of tripwires where you start to see, one's wishes to have or to sort of have things one's own way. And you see that it kind of creates these areas, and there's the time for just releasing that holding. That's how the two fit together. But what happens is, because of the tendency to hold and to take standpoints and to adopt views and to solidify is so strong, we infer principles and then solidify around them. So rather than acknowledging the pull of sensuality and relaxing that, we may adopt a view to be sort of disembodied, or to take a standpoint on the other extreme, which is not what is being indicated. It's just to let go of one particular position, not to adopt another. So that means actually the movement of the mind is from a place where it's leaning on a view, a sense pull, an impulse, an effect, into balance, we might say, rather than clinging to the opposite extreme. So it's not that you have to have kindness, but you find if you're in balance, there's a stronger tendency for your own forms and your own expressions of well-being, of benevolence to occur. Why not? Because that's the nature of the mind. That's the nature of relationship. Nature of empathy. The mind is a resonant, empathic thing. It is affected. But if you try to say, I've got to do some this and that and this and that, I've got to be more like this or that, or sort of trying to adopt particular expressions, then it can be artificial. Just having a bit of a joke the other day as you come out to meditation, so it's time to take a break from doing nothing. All this doing nothing is getting really stressful. Because you can take, a sense of meditation can again become a kind of a standpoint, can't it? You do this, hold yourself here, and then, rather than we're just letting go of that need to do or to have or to make, and then how, in a way, trying to actually recognise that it is quite strange, because the mind so inclines towards leaning on something that in the meditation we're often leaning on subtle aspects or not so subtle aspects of views, trying to hold it together, trying to make it solid, trying to get somewhere, trying to push things away, you know. And then when you can just go out and kind of walk and talk and see things and touch things, there's a sense of just release into a more active mode. And it changes, doesn't it? How long do you do that before you think, oh, it's nice to get some space and sit still for a while? You know, you do a 3-month retreat, by the end of it you vow you're never going to meditate again. Why do I do this to myself? After about 10 days of being off retreat, think, oh, really? Get back into silence again. You know. So when you come out of retreat, it's often a kind of burst, like the spring, particularly this time of year, of social activity and plans and ideas and things. You kind of boom, and about a week or so, you think, oh God, I hate people. But the ultimate renunciation really is allowing things to change. Allowing things never to be solid. And trying to find one's balance in that. You know, where is the balance in allowing things to change? You know, it's not going to be only you know, it's going to be really in the view, the overview. You allow it to be this way because it is this way. And even the resistances to it are that way, and they change. And the difficult times, you know, how when there's a difficult time, we're in difficulties, then there's a feeling of stuck in this. This is a big problem. This is a huge piece of old karma. Stuck with this lifetimes probably, you know, and all that kind of view that embeds it. And it's just good to remember, like, well, you know, last Sunday you weren't like this. Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. At the time, the effect and the impulse of the time, the view of the moment, the attitude of the moment, this level of the affective, impulsive mind is comes up, and it's so luminous and so substantial, and so much in it, vitality in it, that it's hypnotic, and we get pulled into it. Mm. There's times it's emotionally, on the emotional level, it's continual change, and there are times when one feels joyful, bright, outgoing, and times when it ain't happening. You know, you just want to quieten down, much to say. Not because there's anything particularly wrong, it's just that's the nature of it. And there's you know, people have different emotional spectrums and wavelengths, and you know, and just be within this is part of the major difficulty of community life. It's not just one person changing, it's 30 people changing. It's like, you know, like an orchestra, but every instrument's different. They don't all have the same song sheets. But when you're under the Vinaya, helps you to know how to hold on, if you like to put it very crudely, how to firm up, how to sustain, how to patiently persist a particular line of practice. And you can't really practice Dhamma without that. So though things are changing, you keep your faith, you keep your sense of non-judgment, you don't write things off, you don't dismiss things, you keep your sensitivities to other people, to yourself. Although we refrain from physical violence and abuse, there can be quite a lot of subtle and not so subtle forms of psychological abuse that occurs in the way we typify people. How we configure, how the mind configures when we have other people aren't going the way that I go, this configuration, then you so that particular habit, you let go of that. So you have that line, that kind of line of practice. It means there's always a kind of an openness which isn't even asking for anything apart from to sustain its own openness, to abide in its own humility. And then in that you can find that the world of change can be allowed, both internally and externally. You've got a refuge, a balance, a reference to balance, that itself is not really about something internal or external. It's about just recognizing imbalance and even the attraction of imbalance, the sense in which we really, underneath it all, have some kind of ingrained belief that really there is a solidity somewhere. And when we get that, that's it. When we feel that coming, that sense of firmness, solidity, coherence, that's it. That's it. We're getting it. We got it. I've got it. That's it. It's that. And then it doesn't take long before, oops, why am I suffering? But it's not that it's a disaster. It's just kind of getting a change of taste. And hopefully in this 3 months' time, it's a good long time, and many different forms within that, and silences and conviviality and crises and joys and uncertainties and happinesses and inspiration and desperation and perspiration and expiration. That we've kind of got a certain sense of dispassion towards all this.